Dying Light, Resident Evil HD Remaster, Call of Duty Exo Zombies, H1Z1. Seems like we're 5 weeks into 2015 and already the zombies have invaded. Kevin Van Ord, Rob Handlery, Chris Waters.
Not a zombie among us. Don't worry. Yeah,
not yet.
Not yet.
We all got our Zombrex, isn't that right? Or equivalent, as every game seems to have.
Equivalent magical zombie deterrent juice.
Good for another 6 hours. Zombies, video games. I think this conversation has been going on for years. I remember having this one back when Dead Rising and all that sort of stuff started kicking up again. But yeah, now more than ever, I feel like we're getting inundated with zombie games. Kevin, what is it about zombies that like we keep having them in games? Is it just like a super easy way of having things to shoot that aren't thousands of civilians?
Well, I think there's tons of reasons, and it depends on who's developing it and what you want to do. But one of the things is that zombies can be pretty much anything you need them to be. And so whatever you're doing, you could like we talked about Dying Light, but you've got slow zombies and fast zombies, and some of them don't climb, and some of them do climb. Some of them are huge and have big hammers, and like it's just there's no set pat thing. There's no zombie behavior. We don't witness zombies in life, I don't think, right?
So I guess that's the funny thing. Is
but they can be what you want them to be.
Yeah. They fill whatever sort of mechanism you
require. As long as they're bipedal and human looking. I mean, that's the thing with zombies, is they're a stand-in for people. Like, all right, like if we just had these games of just massacring tons, I mean, what, you're gonna make an open world and everyone's gone crazy. What's the reason? They're zombies. But you're not gonna make. You're not gonna like the alternative is Postal, and you are just like not everyone's not gone crazy. I'm gone crazy. I'm gonna do the crazy thing and just murder all these people. It's so fun. It's like these fantasies of violence and power that you live out by destroying human-looking things, but you're guilt-free because they're zombies.
It's kind of the only way of having a game set in a place that isn't a war zone. Like, instead of it being like the enemy combatant. And even that, like in 2015's geopolitical landscape is becoming so much more difficult than ever before to like validate.
What's
like,
a war zone?
What does a war, like who is the baddie?
Yeah.
Like, obviously there are people that we consider to be evil and bad and on the wrong side of whatever event is happening or war, but like that's muddied so much by the sort of, I don't know, but the fact that we have much more access to the truths of warfare, as it were, and especially after living the past 10 years doing it. But zombies are kind of like a really easy get out.
Yep.
It's like, don't worry about it.
There's even more to that too, though, because I think they're conducive to certain types of game ideas. So like, if you look at something like Dead Island, Dead Rising type thing, you've got like weapon crafting systems, or you've got this whole idea where you can stick different parts together. But what are you going to use that kind of crap on? Like if I have a hobby horse and I want to stick a shotgun onto it, like what is my enemy in a game like that?
Yeah.
Like and there's also the issue
of Taliban. Like I get what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like, but there's also the issue, I think, and I don't think zombies are even necessarily have to be, I mean, they're enemies, but there's also the idea that and a lot of times you're not even supposed to engage with them, like in Dying Light again, and Dead Rising and Dead Island. For the most part, you just get around them, right? Like, it's not like a Resident Evil zombie, it's a different kind of thing. The horde is your obstacle, but your main goal is to avoid being, engaging. Unless you're...
Yeah, in Left 4 Dead, you don't play to kill all zombies. If you do, you're going to fail. So I think it's interesting because, we talked about ways that zombies sort of allow these new environments to be explored and these new game mechanics, but then you have something like Call of Duty zombies, and you have that in Advanced Warfare where you're already in a battleground. Like, it's already set up to have, just tons of people you can shoot, and that's in the game. Why do you put zombies there? Rob, you've been playing a bunch of zombies recently. Like, what do zombies bring to this mode that, like, I don't know, just a horde mode would not?
Right. Well, it's interesting, too, because I have two different kind of, like, viewpoints. One being, like, I would like my zombies to have a reason for being a zombie, right? This Call of Duty
there's
Exo,
a virus.
It's just a virus, but you don't need any explanation, because you're just there to just hose them down endlessly. There's only a little bit of like narration you can throw in to something like this, where it's just wave after wave after wave.
What about something like Dying Light?
So Dying Light is, I think, I wish I would have liked to have seen a little better, like, you know, maybe diving into, like, you know, why is there a bomber zombie who explodes? And they barely tap on that. But if I were to, like, my favorite, for instance, is like a game that is like really unique, you know, like Last of Us. Like, yes, I mean, you could say they're not zombies, but they at least went out of their way and like developed something really unique, and they took, you know, like an actual fungus that does that to insects.
You kind of developed it out into something more.
To something different, yeah.
So isn't that the weird thing? It's like you mentioned The Last of Us, and then, you know, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got this ridiculous exo-zombies thing. We've had Resident Evil, which is like a horror game, which you couldn't really say about maybe The Last of Us slightly, and then you've got Dying Light, which is just like an open world exploration game, which again just so happens to have zombies. Like they seem to fit into every single like genre.
Yeah.
Like, where's our zombie soccer game?
Do you know what's interesting? Like when I start thinking about you going through those games too, I think about how many of them. I mean, they're all zombie games, but how many of them are actually about zombies? Like I play The Walking Dead, and sure, there's zombies everywhere, but that's not. They're not. Walking Dead's not really about zombies.
Yeah.
It's about fight for survival. It's about the human connection and the kinds of, you know, connections that you gain in a world like that, and how do you survive and how do you thrive? Or I look at even Resident Evil. I mean, the zombies are there, but I don't know. Like the threat always seems to be something different than just a zombie alone.
And eventually it ends up being hunters as well. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about, to me, like I look at Resident Evil 4, and I don't even think it's really about the zombies so much as I think it's just about staying safe and secure, and it's not really about killing zombies.
And eventually they've stepped away from that. Like 5 and 6 might as well.
Well, they're
5
just pure zombie games at that point.
But they mightn't as well be zombies. They're like different types of zombies. They've stepped so far away from what zombies are that they mightn't as well have been zombies by that stage. It's really weird. Like I feel like the only game that falls into this is actually about zombies is something like maybe Dead Rising, which does that thing where zombies are the kind of like a metaphor for, you know, in that game, going back to like old zombie movies of old, like, you know, capitalism and like fervent consumption.
But even then, it's not about zombies, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about the zombies you see on the screen, it's about our zombification. And even beyond that, like the original Dead Rising, it's all about using time. And, you know, in that case, the zombie horde is an obstacle to you completing things you need to get done quickly. They're not there necessarily for you to kill. I mean, they're there to kill. But, I mean, I don't know. I think of something as like House of the Dead or something like that maybe as more pure, just zombie game that's actually about zombies.
Typing of the Dead, the most zombie game ever created.
Yeah, I'm not sure that a game, like, is a game really ever about zombies? Like, is a platformer really ever about spike pits?
Yeah.
Like zombies are, you touched on it before, Kevin, they're, in terms of a game mechanic, in terms of building a world, they're so versatile as just a way to make a place threatening. And a way to control that level of threat and have just such a wide degree of freedom. I mean, the zombies in Walking Dead are like very low key. But then you have the zombies in Left 4 Dead that barf on you and explode and like have giant tongues, and you know, zombies in Dying Light get pretty wild, you know, in terms of the stuff that they do. So, like, what's the difference? I guess what's the difference between zombies as just sort of a threat part of the environment, and like when you're fighting aliens, like fighting the Covenant in Halo, or you know, fighting the Chimera in Resistance? Like, what's the difference between zombies as enemy and just entirely specially designed alien or other kind of enemy?
Yeah, because like one of the things I remember, Rob, you did your like it's 12 different types of zombies that are in Dying Light. So like I could even see it in the comments for this episode of The Lobby when it went up. It's just people saying zombies suck, zombies are played out. And I remember times feeling that. This month, like you've played 3 zombie games. You played H1Z1, which is basically a copy of a game that's been out for a couple of years anyway.
Even went back and played DayZ, which is what you're talking about too. Yeah.
The Call of Duty Exo Zombies, which is another game that we've had zombies in Call of Duty before.
Sure.
And then of course Dying Light as well. So like you've been pretty much in the trenches on zombies. Are you sick of them? Like today after 2 weeks of it?
Yeah, I am. I am sick of them. I would like to say that I will never play a zombie game ever, but that's not the case. You know, I'm definitely just tired of it. But hell no, are zombies going anywhere? I mean, it's just a matter of like bringing them into a new light, for me at least. I would like to see them, someone, like I said, with like Last of Us, like that kind of blew me away. It was like, oh, that's really cool. They kind of went out of their way to like explain a situation as opposed to just going for the cliche, like zombies, here you go.
Yeah, and between The Last of Us and The Walking Dead, as you were saying, Kevin, like two of the most like critically lauded and like commercially successful games over the past couple of years. Do you see like zombies going away anytime soon? Do you think that they're just so useful as a mechanism?
They're useful, and I think it's also, I think the alien thing actually brings up a good point too, because whether you're making aliens or zombies, you can create forms of behavior that you don't have to do in people, and you can make them very simple forms of behavior. This is the aggressive one. This is, I mean, sometimes you get the, something like, I don't know, the Covenant and Halo or something like that, which would be really smart and stuff like that. But for the most part, you program people, you want them to be human-like, and so we notice when they're behaving in ways that don't make sense. You make zombies, you can do whatever you want with them, and you're just like, this is what that one does.
So like some of the time, are they just like get-outs? Like, are we going to get to the stage where we're playing a game that isn't either a zombie or on the complete opposite scale, as you were saying, Chris, like Postal, which is just so ridiculous? Like, will we ever have a game where like certain moments in The Last of Us actually where you are like pointing a gun at a human being and you are like making a moral decision, and it's not just, oh, it's fine, they're undead or they're the bad guy?
Well, we already had, isn't No Russian kind of like the real people equivalent of that in Modern Warfare 2?
If you had any player agency in that situation, maybe?
Can you, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you can't do that with people unless you want to feel like a horrid human being. Well, I mean, I guess there are people that are making games like that, too. Like, I don't know, Hatred sounds like that kind of game, right?
Looks like a real piece of trash as well.
But
as someone who enjoyed Postal 2,
I mean,
Hatred looks like a real piece of shit.
Zombies and aliens are both easy because you can let the player have a power fantasy and just mow down as many as they want without any kind of moral or social repercussion for enjoying that.
Well, Kevin, what was that game that came out maybe 2 years ago, and it was a downloadable Xbox Live Arcade title where you're like in the ruins of old Chicago and it's very washed out, and you're kind of escorting.
That game. Yeah, I'm Alive.
I'm Alive. So in that game, you do. Resources are very scant, but you have a gun and you come across like groups of bandits, and there's a mechanic in there of like, you pull out the gun to threaten them, and then their behavior changes, and then, but like in some situations, they're going to attack you, or maybe they're going to go on their way, and so that game kind of made violent encounters like the peak, not sort of the norm that you'd operate on. It would be like, whoa, like even pulling out a gun is super dramatic, and so I think we do have games that sort of get at what you're thinking, like that will make the trigger pull that meaningful. But that's really hard to do because a trigger pull is like when you're pointing it at someone, like that's like the unthinkable to most of us, and to confront that in a game form, I mean that has to be so intense and so constructed, like as a game mechanic. I mean.
Technology's changed it too, I think. Like I look at something like Resident Evil 1, and it's like it's not like there was a horde that you were facing. You're facing 1 or 2 or 3 at a time. The most you get is like, oh, a couple dogs come through the thing. But then as technology gets better, it's like we want to have 7 trillion moving things
like
to
Dead
shoot
Rising
at one time. Yeah, totally.
Like, wow, look at the horde.
And that changed the way we think of zombies, and as well the way just pop culture in general. Like now, when I think zombies, I think of something like The Walking Dead, and now it's no longer about. We don't treat zombies quite the same way now. It's more about the human story that develops among survivors.
Right.
That's very much. To me, the current way we look at zombie stuff.
Absolutely. That's H1Z1. That's what it is. That's what DayZ. It's your experiences with other players. No one even cares about zombies. They're nothing. It's who you're talking to, who can you trust, probably, and that's going to be mostly no one, right? You're exactly right. Survival instincts and stuff.
It's interesting. For as played out as zombies are, we actually got quite a lot to discuss there in terms of like how they affect different games and the way in which like the different genres they cross into as well. So it doesn't look like we're missing out on zombie games anytime soon. Let us know what you think about zombie games. Are they played out, or do you have any favorites that we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments below.